On the page about strategies, there was quite a lot of acronyms mentioned.
Yeah.
I think I know most of them, but I just wanted to clarify a few with you, if that's all right.
Sure.
PLO, that's purchase lease option.
Yes.
Is that correct? RTB, is that right to buy?
Yes. Oh, rent to buy. Sorry, rent to buy.
Rent to buy. Okay. I was going to say, how's right to buy property strategy? The two I didn't know was EDC and C2R.
So EDC is exchange with a delayed completion, which is very similar to a purchase lease option, but you're committed. There's no kind of you're obligated to buy, whereas in the purchase lease option, you're not obligated. So slightly different structure to a purchase lease option. And much more solicitors are familiar with them, so they're easy to get past some solicitors. And the other one, C2R, is commercial to residential. We're taking commercial property, which is much cheaper per square foot, and converting that into residential. So you're creating a massive uplift by repurposing the building.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one question if nobody has.
Sure.
So can you talk to us a little bit about some of the joint venture structures and how you work with the investors? Like, say, suppose somebody is having cash. So what examples like you can give us regarding joint venture structures?
There's a lot of different ways you can work with investors, and I tend to just simplify. This has just come from years and years. I've been doing this about 16 years now. So I've just simplified it to a couple of different ways. One way is we just borrow money for projects that we're doing. Effectively, the investors are lending money for projects, which is a fixed amount of money for a fixed period for a fixed return. So, for example, £100,000 for 12 months at say 8%, for example. So that's quite simple. They're effectively loan notes. And we do that as a minimum of 50,000. And you can set whatever criteria works for you. The reason we set 50,000 because with all due respect, I can't have £1,000 here and £5,000 there. It just doesn't make sense, and I'm trying to deal with 50 different people. So we tend to set the figure a bit higher. And most of our purchases around 250,000 plus that we are buying property at anyway. Occasionally it'll be less, but often around there. So £5,000 is not going to go very far. So which is why we set a kind of minimum of 50,000. And often it's used either for renovation or development funds. Then the other way we work is where we do is a true joint venture where the partner is funding the deal in its entirety and we're sharing the risk and reward. And often what this means is where, let's say we're buying something for 250,000 and then we're spending 150,000 to convert it to a high-end HMO, which is one of our core models that we do. So that means the investors put in £400,000. Now, our valuation on that property will probably be 550, maybe even more. It will probably take us a year from start to finish, from the time we purchase the property to do the full renovation, to get it up and running, to get the high rents that we want to achieve, the premium rents, to be able to get a track record of that in the bank so we can prove that this is the rent that we're getting, making the commercial mortgage application, getting the valuation process, everything. By the time the money's back in the bank, that's probably going to be a year, 9 months to a year. So the investor is investing for almost a year with us. But what effectively they're doing, they're getting their money back within a year, and they've got half of the property, the equity that we've created, plus the cash flow. And often these properties will produce £1,400-1,500 plus cash flow per month. And we halve that as well, we share that. So effectively, we're not putting any money in, the investors putting all the money into that deal. And we are building a portfolio where they've got equity in those properties and income from those properties as well. And they're leveraging of our expertise. And with those, often it tends to be £350,000-400,000 that they're investing. Now, I have a bit of a waiting list for that because right now we just can't find enough good deals to do that. Because for an investor who's got cash, that's a no-brainer, right? As long as they know, like, and trust you, then the deal makes sense. Because we're creating something that doesn't exist. So you're thinking about what value can you add to an investor. You don't have to give away too much. Sometimes people say to me, why do you give half the deal away? I said, because it means we can just do endless amounts of deals. We don't have to worry about finding money because there's lots of people that will work with us. But what I try and do is understand why people want to invest, because a joint venture partner is really a business partner. Those joint venture agreements might be 10-year agreements. Some marriages don't even last 10 years. So you've got to make sure that, you are comfortable with the person you're working with. You really don't want to enter business and get into business with somebody you don't like just because they got the money. That's going to be so painful because you are not going to get on. It's going to be like this all the time. Sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah. What if money is left in the deal? Then what do you do with that scenario?
So what I would do in that situation, I make it clear to them, look, we can't guarantee that we're going to get the funds out. Yeah. But we expect, based on our experience and track record, we are going to probably get all, if not most of it out of the deal. And whatever's left in, then stays in the deal. Yeah. So if they've got 20, 30,000, that just stays in. So we have a 10-year, normally a joint venture agreement. And so at the 10-year point, we review it. We start about 9 years in, we start to review it. So what we do at that point, we decide, right, we can either sell the property, we take our profit, we pay your share that you still got tied up in there, we pay the mortgage off and we all walk away. Or what we can do is one person will buy the other person out if they want to do that, right? Or alternatively, we could remortgage the property again, release some more capital because we probably had an increase in value. First, pay any capital still left of the investor money back, 20, 30,000 back to them, and then we've got more surplus cash to do something else. Or the fourth option is everybody's happy, everything's working, we just renew again for another 10 years. So we have a number of options, but they tend to be 10-year agreements I tend to put into place.
Okay, perfect. Makes sense. Thank you.
And this still won't suit everybody, but you've got to create a model that you like and then find people that are happy with that. Don't change your model to suit other people.
Jake has already raised the hand.
Yeah, I have a question. First of all, thanks, Saj, for such a brilliant session. One of the best I have attended. Having said that, I'm a newbie in this field anyway. One question I have for you is, I hope so. One question I have for you is, you actually mentioned about some of the real life scenarios with investors and finding investors and actually keeping them until you have the deal in place.
Yes.
Probably I don't want an example from who you are today, but if we go back many years when you got started,
yes,
how did you manage to keep these investors, almost charged up and get ready to their commitment, which you had from your initial conversation? You got any tips for us, basically?
Sure. In short, the answer was I did it very badly, and that's where a lot of the learning has come from. The experiences of what didn't work and the mistakes I made. And I did make the mistakes of, I thought, oh, they're ready to invest with me. Fantastic. I can park them and I can go off now and find property and whatever. When I come back, scenarios changed. So that I experienced that and realized, well, actually, this is not the right way to do it. So one is having an abundant number of investors is important. You're always having conversations, always be looking for money. Just because somebody said they're interested, they're going to invest, it doesn't mean they will. They might not like the deal, but that's okay. You're always having conversation. Just like we're always looking for deals, we're always looking for investment, we're having those conversations. But now let's say you've had a conversation with somebody, and really a lot of it is in the psychology of, look, if we're going to work together, we're going to be business partners, I need commitment from you. Here's the things I need you to do. It depends if they're going to lend you money or if they're going to come in as a partner, as a joint venture partner. It's slightly different because lending money might be for 6 months or a year. A partner might be for many years in the project. But really, it's about commitment from them saying, look, psychologically, they're kind of committing to working with you. And then you get very clear on the criteria of what you're going to do. So, I literally would say, okay, Mr. Investor, just so I understand, what you're saying is if we can find a deal that means that we're going to purchase for 250,000, we spend no more than 150 to convert it, and we're going to end up with a value of about 500,000. That's the type of deal you want to get involved in. When we refinance it, we should, but we can't guarantee you get all your money out. Have I understood correctly? This is the type of deal we want to do. Is that right? So I'm getting them to, one, acknowledge they understand the structure, and secondly, that they're saying, yes, this is what I want to do. Yeah. Now that yes isn't any kind of formal commitment, but at least it's an understanding that this is what we're trying to do. And then you want to liaise with them, keep them informed about what you're looking at, what's going on, having those conversations. And as I said earlier, make it very easy to say, that's fine if you don't want it. If you walk into a shop, let's say you've seen that leather jacket you really like, you look at it and you think, you know what, I'm going to haggle them down on price a little bit. And they say to you, look, it's £200. You look at it and say, well, see if the manager will do it for £180 for me because, one of the tassels looks a bit off. And they might say, well, no, it is what it is. It's the last one that we have. It's not a problem because we've got a couple of other people that were also interested that might come in later on today for it. all of a sudden you're thinking, forget the discount, I'll buy it. Because it's a scarcity thing, right? You think I'm going to miss out. So in the same way, if you make it easy, i.e. you potentially take something away from somebody, you put it in their hands and say, here's the deal. But if you don't like it, it's no problem. I'll take it back. From a psychology point of view, that's very powerful. You see, it's no. Don't show anybody else. I'm in. Do you see? And so, so I don't do any formal written agreements. You can. I think, look, the relationship is really important, but I will do this kind of, testing people to make sure they're not going to mess me around as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Should we take one more?
Yes, Saj. I mean, we have received one question from live audience from YouTube. So what is the question is, as you said, the most learning comes from when the things goes wrong in the life. So do you have any experience, and could you share your experience with this kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend that you learn from mistakes. I don't think that's the best way to do it. There are a lot of learning from mistakes. But what I would say is learn from other people's mistakes. This is where we're always looking for somebody that's a few steps ahead. So, if I've done a few things that you haven't, then, I can share that knowledge with you and say, look, don't do it that way, do it this way, because it's going to be easier for you. And there's many people that ahead of me, there's a lot of mentors that I have, and that I turn to them, I say, look, this is what we're thinking of doing, what's your thoughts? And they might say, look, do it this way, because you can avoid this mistake. So you're trying to learn from other people's mistakes. Now, as human beings, we're strange creatures that sometimes people can even tell us, don't do something, and we still stick our hand in the fire, because that's just the way we are. So we want to try and minimize that. We're trying to minimize mistakes by just understanding, because often, it's around fear. And if we're fearful, we don't do things. But actually, the fear comes from not knowing what the outcome is going to be. So if somebody can guide us through and say, look, this is the likely outcome, it reduces our level of fear, because it increases our level of certainty of outcome. And so it's really, it's kind of around that. What I would say is I read a lot of biographies, like, for example, the book we're talking about, one of Trump's books earlier on. These are just stories about what they've done, how they've done things, what mistakes they made, how they've done things. And I think there's just so much learning in understanding how people have achieved things. And if something's possible, it's about a belief thing. So you might be starting out and I think, how am I going to get my first deal? And I'll tell you what, with some of the early deals I did with no money down, and they were below market value as well. And the first 2 years, it was really hard. And my wife, who's massively supportive, at the time would say to me, look, you've been at this for a couple of years. Nobody's going to sell you a house for less than it's worth. These people are crazy. These events you go to and stuff, and spending all this money and things, it's mad. It doesn't work. Just go and get a job. And even though she's supportive, she's trying to say to me, look, this is not working. But when I got the first deal done, and actually had about £4,000 cash back as well, and when that money landed in the bank, then she was converted. She was a believer, right? Because, sometimes we have to see things to believe things. It's like, who would have believed, 50, 60 years ago that somebody could walk on the moon? Because another human being has done it, then we have the belief it's possible, and now someone's off to Mars. Right, so it's all belief comes from seeing other people that have done things and that are ahead of us as well. So I don't know if I've gone off of a tangent there, or that was useful.
Yes, that's really helpful. Thank you, Saj.